Well, welcome in, family, friends. Welcome into WMAR-2 News. We are Facebook Living right now. I'm Jamie Costello in the box over there. That is my next door box. And Mallory Sofastaii, who has done more for those of you who have been unemployed than the state has, to be quite frank with you. Here we are at 12:30. Most of you would be on a lunch break if you had a job, but you don't. You've been out of work for 10 months. Mallory's going to tell us about the frustration. Mallory, just when you started this 10 months ago with people having unemployment issues, did you ever think you'd be getting, how many emails or text messages are you receiving daily, let's say?
Daily, I would say I'm probably up to around 25 to 30 emails and messages. And we're trying to work through all of them, but no, Jamie, we had no idea. I mean, this has been going on since March. We thought maybe a few months, but the problems have just not gone away. And there are tens of thousands of people who can't get any answers. I mean, the good news is, yes, probably the majority of claimants, their issues have been resolved, right? But when you think about how many others are stuck in this limbo, it's nearly 44,000 people still waiting for answers. And those are 44,000 people trying to get through on the phones, trying to get through on email, and they can't.
How many have given up?
We don't know. We don't have that information, but I can imagine a lot because I do get those emails. I think probably, I send their information. I hear back from them every other week. And I get those emails where it's like, I'm at the verge of giving up, or, even more grim or upsetting emails where people are they don't know what to do because they are at the end of their rope. They have no money, no family to rely on.
What is the number one frustration? Is it getting through, or getting an answer, or getting the help? What is that number one frustration that most have?
Number one is getting any kind of response from the Department of Labor. When you can't get through on the phones, your emails go unanswered, you have no idea if anyone is paying any attention to you. And that's why we do our best to respond to people, just to let them know we hear you, we see that you're having an issue, and we will also send your information to the Department of Labor. But it's just that silence, and it's really killing people because they have no idea. And then also another big complaint are these interviews. So, the Secretary of Labor has explained to me before that it's an insurance program. So you say you lost your job, they have to go to your employer, they have to confirm information. There's a back and forth. It can take time, right? But for a majority of probably these 44,000 people with pending claims, they need a phone interview. So they need someone to call them, go through the check boxes, make sure everything they entered was correct, make sure everything their employer answered was correct, but they can't get these interviews. It's taking months to get one of these interviews, and that's just the last hurdle in order to get their benefits.
So Mallory, they've gone from paycheck to, you live paycheck to paycheck, they're living paycheck to no paycheck. What is the longest that you know of, the person out there that you have been in correspondence with, that it's been too long? Who would that be?
I think I got an email last week. Someone said April.
April.
I'm still hearing a lot from July.
I'm sorry. Here's Brenda. We're going to be cutting in. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Brenda says we have tried several times, got set up, and it vanished. Why?
So I'm not sure exactly what Brenda's referring to. I'm going to assume it's trying to get through on the phones, or
yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
They set up this callback feature on the phones, but it'll only provide that feature to so many people. So it has a cap. Once that cap is reached, then you can't get through, and you still can't leave a callback number. So maybe that's what Brenda's referring to, if she wants to comment and maybe specify.
Go back and tell me about this. Tell me about the one person that you helped out that, I know there are a lot of people singing your praises, and rightly so. But give me that one example of somebody who has struggled, turned to you, and boom, you got them a paycheck.
So we did this story, I think it was in July. It was Kimberly Miles. Kimberly, she was so frustrated. You call 100 times a day, every single day, and you can't get through. And the issue with her unemployment benefits, it was an issue by the state. They had inverted her Social Security number. She knows she didn't enter it in backwards. So all they had to do was just flip it back around. It was their mistake, and she could not get through to anyone to ask them to do that. So finally, we were able to get through the Department of Labor, and she instantly got her benefits. But it was just that little thing. And that's the issue for so many people. They just have that one little thing the department has to do, and it's not being done. So in the meantime, these people are just forced to wait.
Here's Paul Williams. Why don't you read that one for us? Paul's chiming in.
Paul says, thank you both so very much. I've been waiting for over 6 months, almost 7 months now, for an adjudicator, despite having medical documents proving that the reason I had to quit was for my health. I also have a separation letter from the HR service provider they have extended to. So Paul, I'm hearing this. That was what I was talking about with the interviews taking months. Last time we spoke with the Secretary of Labor in December, she said that, they were getting to the point where they were going to be able to really work through this backlog because they were hiring more adjudicators every day. We haven't seen the number of pending claims rise, but we haven't seen them drastically reduce either. We're trying to find out how many adjudicators are working through these cases, and on average, how long it's taking them to address each claimant. We're working on getting those answers. And yes, we know it is taking months to get an adjudicator to look at your case.
I know this is the first time, we've gone through something like this, but it looks like the system was just not prepared. And look, we just had, I'm sorry, I think that was Denise right beforehand. Denise said she's waited for August. There is Denise. She's been waiting for a phone interview since August. I mean, yeah. And that's the story. Those are the stories we've been telling.
So what I'm going to say, like in cases like Denise, you've been waiting since August. All you need is a phone interview. You really need to contact your legislators, your delegates, and your state senators. Let them know how long you have been waiting, because they have the power to then go to the Department of Labor and ask these questions. Why is it taking so long? We keep hearing from people. And yes, they are also being overwhelmed. I think Senate President Ferguson last week said that the legislature has 4,000 claims that they're working on independently. Everyone's trying to do what they can to get your case in front of the Department of Labor so that you can get your benefits. It is going to take time, but like my mom taught me, squeaky wheel gets the grease. You have to just keep pushing and trying and calling and emailing.
I think Melinda, what do you do? They have not reached out for a phone interview. Be the squeaky wheel, right?
Yep. So exactly like I just said for the last one, contact your state legislators, not your, U.S. senator or your congressman. Unfortunately, they can't help in this situation because it's a state program. So what you need to contact your delegates and your state senators. If you just type in, how do you look them up? It's easy, and you can email all of them. I also, after this Facebook Live, I'll post a link that makes it really easy to put in your address and find out who your legislators are.
That's good. I reopened my claim, gotten one balance. Now it won't let me claim any weeks.
Mm-hmm. So in Beacon, it should say why your claim is on hold, right? It might say hold separation issues, hold unresolved issues. So once you know what the issue is, then you can try to resolve it yourself, like if they're missing documents. But for a lot of these cases, you need to speak with someone at the Department of Labor, because only they can tell you what exactly is holding up your benefits.
Is there anybody out there watching us right now? Hey, Lillian, I was never able to get through to unemployment. I'm a 66-year-old widow with a disabled child and began working in 1972. I'm very poor now, but I gave up. We are living far below the poverty line. Man, has this system worked for anybody? I mean, has there been anybody that's been online and boom, I got my check the next week?
Yeah. So, according to the state data, it's only about 5% of pending claims that are still pending. But that 5% makes up 44,000 people. So I think there are maybe 800,000 claims that have been processed. So we'll just have to believe that all of those people are getting their benefits with no issues. But again, while we can focus on how many people are, we still have tens of thousands of people who aren't. And that's our big concern, is exactly when will the state be able to sift through this backlog and address all of these different issues.
And here is Rob. They are also trying to change overpayment on their mistake. I had to file an appeal about it. They are trying to charge me over $8,000.
Yeah, so we've been hearing about crazy overpayment amounts. So, Rob, we had a story on this last night. Eddie Kadem was the reporter. You can see the video on our website. We spoke to Amanda. I believe she had like a $10,000 overpayment. That issue, we were able to get answers from the Department of Labor. It had to do with the pay stubs that she sent them. Here's another issue. There's not good communication even when you can get it. So they asked her to upload pay stubs. She did. She uploaded her 2020 pay stubs. They wanted her 2019 pay stubs. That wasn't specified, so that's how she got that $10,000 overpayment. Wow. So you really need to try to figure out exactly what documents they need from you, but what you absolutely need to do is file a dispute when you get those overpayment notices. And you can also contact the Benefit Payment Control Unit by phone or email so you can get more information about how to resolve that overpayment.
Here's Paul again, Mallory.
Yes, Paul says, my question is, I see people saying that their claims have been resolved as recently as 2 weeks ago by an adjudicator, yet those of us waiting for 6 months or more are still waiting. When you talk to a claims agent, they say that they are working the claims first come, first serve. Paul, you bring up an excellent point. We've been trying to get information from the state on the age of these pending claims, and if they are doing it like you mentioned, first come, first serve. How many pending claims are still from July, from August, from September? We've requested this data for the last 2 or 3 weeks now. We still haven't gotten it. So we're not able to find out just yet, if they are prioritizing these claims first.
You're to have an interview with the Secretary of Labor next week. And
yes.
And we are asking everybody out there who's watching us right now, if you have questions that you want answered from the secretary, Mallory will be the one to ask her. They never answer the phone. There you go. Feels like 3 people work at the call center.
Yes, I know.
That is the number one thing, man.
It's what I kind of have a hard time figuring out as well is they keep adding more call center agents, more phone lines, but people can't get through. So at last check, I think they were up to like 500 call center agents. They've brought in other vendors. They've hired Accenture, and they've tried to train them to answer the phones and to handle these claims. We know that people still aren't getting through. So part of their explanation for Beacon and updating the software and implementing the live chat is to reduce the backlog in the phones, to clear up the phones a little bit, so that if you have a simple question, you can get it addressed via live chat or through your Beacon portal. But unfortunately, because many people still aren't getting answers, they're all calling at the same time, and that's really what's causing these phones not to be answered.
Oh, just frustration. Give me some more positive stories. Give me some of the people that you've really helped. I mean, give us some light at the end of the tunnel, if you would.
Yeah, and I think about this a lot because we do focus a lot of our efforts on the people who aren't getting their benefits, when we also should focus on the people who are getting resolution, because we want to give you guys hope that claims are being resolved. So actually, we'll have a story airing tomorrow morning. Terry Gerard, I spoke with, he had his claim personally resolved by the Secretary of Labor. And he got that because he just kept emailing her and reaching out. And, he said that after speaking with her, he felt like she really cared about him, that she's doing her best. And it changed his whole view on the situation, because we don't blame the workers. We know the workers are doing their best to process these claims. It's overwhelming, right? No one could have anticipated this. The legislature is looking into how it got to this point where we were so ill-equipped and unprepared to handle this influx of claims. But Terry said that, for him, it took his faith, it took persistence, but he's finally getting everything owed to him, and it couldn't have come at a better time.
Andrea, I hope waiting since October, claim flip-flops between active and inactive, hard to get through. Number 667 toll lines. When an agent is reached, they can't seem to see any info previously uploaded. Wow. There you go, Andrea.
Yeah. We keep hearing that, and that the secretary told us as well that you might get one issue resolved, but then 2 days later, that person may have another issue. So it just keeps going and going. They did also enlist Salesforce so that they can more accurately track a claimant's issues. We don't know exactly how that's being implemented just yet.
Read Patrice.
Patrice, today they sent me an overpayment of $18,662 due to them placing me under PUA and not UI. Now I'm not being paid today. I've heard that as well, where there's been some confusion about which program people should be under. They've been under one program for a while, then they get switched, and then they receive this overpayment notice. I've brought this to the attention of the Department of Labor. They tell me it's not a glitch. So again, it may be based off of the documents you're uploading, but I will also bring this to the attention of the secretary when we hopefully have some time to speak with her next week.
Patrice, fire us back. How are you managing mentally? How I keep getting issues after issues, all because of their errors, and I have documents to prove their errors. Patrice, send me back a line. How are you managing? Honestly, how are you managing through all this? Look at different amounts they gave me. Yeah, people have a paper trail there, Mallory.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Yeah. That trail just keeps going on and on and on. Yeah.
And, you know, I hear from people that I was able to help in July, and now I hear from them again in January and February. And it's like, you know, it's just like you can't just have your one claim and have it, you know, be fine for several months. It's you keep running into these different issues.
Patrice says, I have it. I'm all stressed. My head hurts. Man, I've had it. Patrice. All right, Mallory, get on this Patrice case.
Yeah, and you know, there could be some relief coming. So our story from this morning has to do with these $1,000 grants that will be issued, that if it passes, that would be issued to people with pending claims. So if you've had a claim that's been stuck in adjudication for more than 30 days, you may be eligible for a $1,000 grant. This is part of the Relief Act. So it's made it through the Senate. It still has to make it through the House and be approved by the governor. We're told that the House will be voting on the Relief Act by the end of this week. So if it makes it through, like I mentioned, then the soonest you may be able to receive a $1,000 check is the first week of March. The comptroller's office told me that, you know, they can send out the payments within a few days of receiving everyone's information from the Department of Labor. The Department of Labor, their first deadline is March 3rd to send those names of claimants. So we're going to keep an eye on it. If those grants make it through, again, you might be able to receive a $1,000 grant by the first week of March if you are one of these people with a pending claim and it's not due to any kind of fraud issue.
Here's Teresa. You know, we're talking about 44,000 claimants. I think we've heard from 30,000 so far since we've been on here in 1230. Here's Teresa. If I was supposed to be backdated pay from my appeal, I gave up after going back to work, even though I'm so behind. Will they ever just issue the ones that won their appeal, or is it something that you think is lost money? That's a great question, Teresa.
Teresa, keep after it. Keep trying, because that money is owed to you. They said that they will backdate those claims. So even if you are back to work right now and you were eligible for unemployment for that certain time period, you are still owed that money. So you need to continue pushing for answers from the Department of Labor and reaching out to your legislators as well.
All right, here's your question to take to the secretary from Paul. She has said that she was going to continue hiring people to take on these claims to the number of educators a week, but the number of people stuck in on hold, unresolved issues, purgatory has not dropped any. Is she having a problem getting these people hired?
Paul, that's one of the top questions on my list already. And it sounds like you've been following our reports, because in that interview with me, she did say that every week, this interview, I think was December 11th, that every week they plan to bring on an additional 25 adjudicators to handle these unresolved issues and these pending claims. We've asked for information on exactly how many adjudicators are working at any given moment. We haven't received that information just yet. I'm hoping to get those answers from the secretary next week. So I will absolutely ask how many adjudicators they have working right now, if they're having any issues hiring these people, and when exactly will the 44,000 claims go down significantly.
Yeah, and here's the problem. You know, when you get your BGE bill during Christmas, everybody in the neighborhood compares their bill. Well, why'd you get that? Here's Ann. She says, the people I work with at my job are getting it, but I'm not.
I hear that as well. I think it was someone who worked at the airport. She said out of her 10 coworkers, only 2 of them weren't receiving their benefits. It doesn't make much sense, because if it is an insurance program and you have to go to the employer and to the employee, it should be the same information for everyone. I don't have an exact answer on why that is, but we are seeing that as well.
You brought this up earlier. I want to go back, circle around there. Let's say you're so frustrated trying to get through. Can you go to a lawmaker? Can you go around the system and see what your elected official can do for you?
So
Would
how
you
it
advise
works?
that?
I would absolutely advise that. So what happens when I receive an email from someone? I have my own form that I ask people to fill out their information, and then twice a week, 3 times a week, I'll send an entire spreadsheet to the Department of Labor and ask them to work through the list. Legislators also have their own lists, but they're able to track those claimants on their lists. I don't have that capability, which is why I encourage everyone to contact their legislators, their state delegates, their state senators. Ask them, if they can send their information to the Department of Labor, and stay on top of it. You'll receive an email back saying that someone should get to you within 10 or 15 days. Give it a week. If they don't, follow up. But yes, and like I mentioned, right now the legislature has a list of about 4,000 names they're working on. So you just have to keep at it. If you're not able to get through on the phones, you're not getting any response via email, you have to find these other outlets, unfortunately. And that's become people like myself as well as legislators.
Here you go, Lillian, back again. I'm an intelligent woman. Yes, you are. I can vouch for that. Longtime businesswoman. Yep. I never give up. But Beacon will not even allow me to get on their system. I'm at the end of my rope. We were financially ruined by my husband's brain disease that killed him, even with great health insurance, so I have no cushion. We are living with so little. I cannot understand why this is happening.
Yeah,
Lily.
with Beacon, and Lillian, I'm so sorry for your loss. It's no one should have to deal with this kind of stress.
No.
On top of everything else you're going through. It sounds like with the Beacon issue, it might be a technical issue. Again, you'd have to go through the Department of Labor to figure out exactly why. Maybe it's, on their end, they have different information compared to your real information. There could be some kind of error there, but only they can tell you what's been going on. But I also tell people in situations where they just have nothing left and they have no support, to contact your local social services and also your legislators, because they can direct you to other resources. If you're facing eviction, if you've run out of food, you can call 211 and just try to figure out what other resources are there in the community. They are out there. You may have to do a little bit more research, but don't just rely and wait on your unemployment benefits. If you need help now, you also need to find those additional resources.
Listen to William here. I feel sorry for the people who are suffering due to this. I've been unemployed since December, and reading these comments, I will keep my prayers for all of us. Isn't that something? We ought to have Chick-fil-A move in and mind the phones, and have live operators at least be nice and, hold our hand a little bit and guide us through this.
I agree.
It's just, oh man, it's so simple just to show compassion to those who really need it this time. Here's Christy, 7 weeks on hold today and was hit with an overpayment. That's a big theme that you're watching, right?
Yeah, these overpayments, it seems like in the last month, ever since they started the extended federal unemployment insurance programs, that we're seeing more of these overpayments. So my guess is that it has to do with people being switched to different programs, and then the system finding that maybe they shouldn't have been paid as much, or but again, these are overpayments that you can dispute, that you need to get to the bottom of, and hopefully you can get it removed from your account, because it's incredible. People who are on unemployment can't afford a $10,000 overpayment. It's just not practical. So if you don't get it resolved, though, they will eventually find a way to recoup that money. So it's important to dispute it within the time frame.
Tell us about the eviction now. A lot of people are facing eviction, but that's still on hold, right? We're not evicting anybody because Alex here, 8 weeks and still no money, facing eviction.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure exactly where we are in the eviction
Yeah.
phases. If your landlord had already filed for eviction and the courts have reopened to a certain point, you could be evicted. But what you have to remember is you will get a notice. You need to appear in court, which may be virtually now, but you need to make your case and you need to also prove hardship due to the pandemic. So it can't be that you had fallen behind before the pandemic. I think it has to be related to it. But you also, I think people are figuring out right now you need to be your own best advocate. And that means finding, again, these resources that can help. Civil Justice Center is a really great, Public Justice Center is a really great resource as well for evictions.
You were on this fraud story way back, and here's Dorothea. How can I speak to someone about fraud activity that was not done on my behalf? Has that calmed down a little bit, or is that still prevalent?
No, it has not. And you know what people are finding out right now? I went onto the unemployment website today. At the very top, there's this box saying that if you received unemployment benefits, you'll receive a tax form, right? People are receiving tax forms when they never claimed unemployment. So now they're learning that people claimed unemployment under their names, which could impact you, because if you fraudulently received benefits and then you actually need your benefits later, you're going to have to go through this whole headache again. So fraud is rampant. It's a big issue. What you need to do is you need to contact the Benefit Payment Control Unit as soon as possible so that they can sort out this fraud. If you're having issues, you need to email me with this fraud, because this is something that really needs to be prioritized as well. And I do want to touch on this other fraud issue that we're seeing, and it involves the Bank of America debit cards that are being issued. I've received probably 25, 30 emails from people who say that they had their cards in their possession. They looked at their statements. Someone had withdrawn money from an ATM from their account. They say that they were careful with their card. They never, lost it or misplaced it. And yet someone was able to access their account from an ATM and take out that money. So we talked to a cybersecurity expert, and he said a big thing that's missing with these Maryland unemployment insurance debit cards from Bank of America are the chips. You look on your credit card, your debit card, it has that like little aluminum or silver chip on it. That's an added security protection that's not being provided to unemployment insurance claimants. We asked why. We were told to ask Bank of America. So we asked Bank of America. They said that they're in discussions with the state, but they couldn't tell us why. And, we also don't know if that could prevent all of this. What could potentially is direct deposit, which hasn't been implemented yet. Maryland, I believe, is one of only 3 states that doesn't have direct deposit. So lawmakers are looking at that as well.
Tell me how, I know you did a story on this a while back too. Tell me how the other states are managing. How are they doing? Let's say Pennsylvania, Delaware, Virginia, our neighboring states, West Virginia. How are they doing?
So despite hearing the governor say that Maryland is doing very well, data doesn't back that up. So if you look at federal data for first-time benefits, these are people who are just their initial payment, right? If you look at, so the federal standard is within 21 days, you receive your first-time benefit. In December, Maryland came in last compared to every other state in delivering those benefits within 21 days. The state has said, that data is not as accurate because people backdate their claims, but you can backdate your claims in other states as well. We have sister stations in Las Vegas and Milwaukee. And unfortunately, I also hear from them that, answers are hard to come by. A lot of people are still waiting. They have a backlog on the appeals end, because this is something too that's different in Maryland. Maryland is what's considered a mitigation state. It's one of only 4 states in the country. So instead of just getting your claim and seeing that maybe you quit or you were laid off and just denying it outright, Maryland has to adjudicate it first. They have to talk to you, they have to talk to your employer, and then decide whether or not you deserve benefits. In 46 other states, it's just either we pay you or we deny you, and then you can file an appeal. So in our story from this morning, and in Wisconsin, for example, they're a pay or deny state, which Governor Hogan wants Maryland to become. They don't have a backlog of pending claims like we do, but they have a backlog of appeals. So they're up to 15,000 appeals that they haven't been able to work through. And it'll take 4 to 6 weeks to process an appeal. And then I think they said 4 to 6 months to get a hearing on your appeal. So, other states aren't doing great, but they are doing it a bit better from what I can tell.
All right. Here's Keisha. Thank you for speaking on this. Bank of America closing the accounts have created hardship on families as well. Don't we hear that, Keisha? Right, Mallory?
Yeah, and Keisha, this really angered me because when I was speaking to Bank of America, I asked them, why are these claims denied right away? And they told me, well, if it's denied, you need to ask us to reconsider our decision and then we'll open an investigation. But I wanted to know, why does that need to happen? Why won't you just investigate it to begin with? And they basically told me because unemployment insurance claimants aren't regular Bank of America customers, they don't have your same payment and banking history to know when a transaction may be fraudulent. So that's why you have to go through the extra steps of disputing the claim and asking them to reconsider. But that's the language they told me to tell claimants, to tell Bank of America, if your claim is denied for one of these fraudulent transactions, ask them to reconsider.
What about William here? Look at the back of the debit card. Go on the website, follow instructions, and have your money transferred to your regular bank.
Yes, William, excellent point. So while Maryland does not have direct deposit set up, you can get your money deposited into your own bank account once you're issued a debit card. So that way, and you can also set up automatic transfers. So once you get your debit card, you can go through the steps of getting that money transferred into your own bank account. So then that way you have better control over it. You can monitor for fraudulent activity. So absolutely, I recommend that claimants do that because it just doesn't seem like these cards are very secure from what we've been hearing from claimants. And you don't want to take that risk. You need that money.
All right, the back and forth today. All right. Well, Patrice, keep trying. Typo, Mallory. I emailed you the correspondence from the back and forth today. All right, there you go. All right, let's put a bow on this. You're hearing you've seen the frustration firsthand. You've heard it. People screaming at you through the phone because they're frustrated. Again, what can you tell them as we go on into the afternoon to the long night into the next day?
Keep trying, keep calling, keep emailing. Email me, email your legislators. Definitely reach out to your legislators because they are in session right now. They can call hearings with the Secretary of Labor. They can go to the governor. They can try to get this issue resolved, but they need to hear from you first. And they're elected officials. You put them in office, so you deserve answers from them as well. But again, just don't give up because if you are entitled to this money, you should receive it.
And listen, everybody, get in touch with Mallory. I've seen her do stories that don't even make the air, but she's making sure that you're taken care of. She's making the calls, she's making the emails, text message, and following up. That's something that is unheard of, a follow-up. And on behalf of everybody that is going through this, Mallory, we thank you for being there and helping everybody out as best you can. And next week, she's going to be talking with the Secretary of Labor. That ought to be a fun interview again, huh?
Yes. I appreciate any minute she gives me because I know she's extremely busy. But, communication has been few, it hasn't been enough and we want to get you answers. So, hopefully we can next week.
All right. There's her email right there. Hit her up and keep your head above water and we hope to make it. Mallory, thank you so much for doing what you're doing. Okay.
Thanks, Jamie.
All right. We'll see you tonight at 5 o'clock, everybody. Have a great afternoon.